for walking away at the end of the day feeling like I did something that's important in the world. And so from those aspects, of course, it's rewarding, and the money is not too bad. So yes.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Career Success Guide CSG. My name is Jaya, I'm a career coach. Today we have a special guest with us. Her name is Priya Santhanam. She is a chemical engineer that has completed her bachelor's in India and her Ph.D. in the US. She is currently working as a senior program manager IP Ops with Amazon in the US. Before that, she has held a gamut of roles with ExxonMobil Upstream Research Company for over 7 years. She has published over 20 scientific papers, holds 3 patents, and has presented over 20 technical conferences. Furthermore, she is a mom of 2 young children and is an advocate of women's career advancement in STEM field, especially those that are experiencing infertility. She is certainly someone that you can look up to for advice in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics field. Welcome to the show, Priya. How did you get into STEM field, or what motivated you to do so?
Jaya, thank you so much for having me. I love the content that you create. I'm so privileged to have this opportunity to talk to you on the channel. For me, it was a given, Jaya. I don't know if you grew up in India. I did, right? In India, when you're growing up, you're either a doctor or an engineer, at least in the surroundings that I grew up in. So it was a no-brainer. I just had to choose between being a doctor and an engineer. And then, of course, I had to choose which engineer I wanted to be, right? And so because it was kind of predetermined for me, the only thing I did was to say, I don't want to be what everybody else is. At the time that I went to school, everybody was studying computer science and IT around me. And so I clearly knew I did not want to do that. And so I made an unconventional choice at the time to study chemical engineering in India. And so I got into it because everybody else was getting into it. It's interesting that you asked me that, Jaya, because when I moved to the US, it really hit me hard how there aren't a lot of women and girls in STEM, right? But in India, it was never an issue. That's a whole different challenge that everybody only gets told you need to be this or that. But when people talked about it in the US, it really hit me hard to say, why? This doesn't make any sense. Why is it that girls cannot do what boys can do, right? Why would it be any different? And so anyway, we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, along the way. But for me, it was predetermined in a way. It wasn't an active choice I had to make.
Okay. That's very interesting. I think I grew up in India. I can relate with what you say. Like, I did my graduation in biotechnology and I wanted to become a scientist. But then after my graduation, I had a gap. Then it was hard to get back to biotechnology. It was like a journey which I have to do like 7 to 10 years. Then I'm like, do I really want to invest that type of time? Can I do something else and, start working soon? So, priorities changes. Then I went and did my MBA. I got a job just after my MBA and my career switched. Yeah. If at all, it was easy. It was, there was a path that was made for me. I would have entered into STEM and made a career in that field. So yeah, I can totally relate with whatever you're saying. So what is STEM life like, or what is your experience with that? And what type of career options are there for STEM graduates now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jaya. So my personal experience in STEM has been so diverse, right? I've been a lab rat. I've done exclusively work in the lab. I've been out in operations, climbing through vessels and troubleshooting and all of that stuff that engineers do, right? I've been in jobs where I've been coding to save my life. And then I've been in positions where you're working from a computer and just doing different things. And of course, a lot of taste of leadership and, all of those skills along the way, right? And so when you say, what is life in STEM like? The only word that comes to mind is that it's so diverse. And truly, you can choose. The world is truly your ocean just within STEM, and you can choose anything that you want to do and be anyone you want to be within STEM. So the best thing that I like about what is really that education do for you, right? What does that STEM education do for you? It opens the avenue for all these jobs that I talked about, right? And anything that you want to do. But more importantly, I think it's more rigorous than some of the fields, right? We know that. And so what that does is it prepares you with the skill sets to learn anything and do anything. And that's, I think, more important than specifically what job can I do with this degree. More than that, this kind of education prepares you for the world, and now you can be anything.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's no, that type of technical skill will definitely help you in whichever career that you're going to. Good point. I know you are a STEM advocate, and what is the best thing of being STEM?
What's the best thing about being in STEM? So for me, I think there's two things, right? One is the diversity of opportunities that I talked about, right? Where you could jump from one to another and do so many different things. So that boredom of being stuck in a job, that goes away. Because the minute I feel I'm bored or I'm not enjoying this, there's a million other things I could do because of my degree, which I love that privilege. I love that I can do that, right? The other thing that I actually enjoy most, and it's a passion project for me, is to add value beyond the job that I do. So you know this, right? STEM is really the scarcity of women in STEM, right? The scarcity of diversity of any kind in STEM. It's unbelievable to me that we are still having these conversations in 2021, right? And so to be in a position where I can be a person that someone else can look at and say, oh, she did it, I could do it, right? On so many levels, right? As a woman, as an immigrant, as a mom. And so that's a position that I like to be in. That's something that I do enjoy about being in STEM. The ability to add value beyond the work that you do.
Yeah, great. I'm pretty sure you've had challenges while you were progressing through this career. So what are some of the challenges that you faced?
You know, I've been reflecting on this, Priya, in preparation for this conversation. There's a lot of different challenges that I faced in my career, right? And I wrote them down. And at the end of the day, the common theme that comes from all of those different challenges is building credibility and gaining trust in the teams that I go to, right? And so when you are walking in as a woman or, you know, as a person of color into a team and working in a STEM career, you already have so many biases that you are fighting against, right? So in order for you to build credibility with the team, you first have to go through that long cave of biases before you can even get to a point of starting to show. And so, you know, you come into a job and you need to show that you are awesome. But for people like us, it's coming in and saying, I know what I'm talking about, right? Spending a lot of time in just doing that. And then, okay, you believe me, now let me show you how I'm awesome, right? And so that to me is the hardest part. That investment that goes into showing that you know what you're talking about, that is the hardest part of being a woman in STEM.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are the toughest things, but I'm pretty sure anybody can overcome those barriers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What would be your advice to somebody that aspires to be someone in STEM?
Just do it. No, I'm a big STEM advocate. So of course, anybody who talks to me, I say, you should be in STEM. But, you know, I would say two things. I think surround yourself with people who support you and lift you up, right? It's true of any field. It's particularly true in STEM, even more so if you are a woman in STEM, because there aren't a lot of people around you, right? And so it's not just for you to get the confidence and to get the support system. It's also for you to be that individual for someone else. You never know whose life you're impacting by doing that, right? And so the advice in terms of if you want to come into STEM, number one, surround yourself with people who can support you and lift you up. And number two, keep your eyes and ears open for what's trending, what's happening around you, right? What are the problems that exist in the world that you can solve, right? I know it sounds like such a huge thing, but it's really not, right? And so what are the key technology areas that exist in the world today that are kind of hot and are solving the problems that we're talking about? And so any specific major that you choose in college as a STEM individual, right, shouldn't limit you from taking on those problems and building the skills to solve those problems. And so that's why I think awareness of what's going on around you is so important. You know, in the times that I went to school, I graduated from my undergrad in 2007, right? It was, you're a chemical engineer. These are the 5 things chemical engineers do. And that's one of the 5 holes that you'll fit into. But today we live in a very, very different world, right? Someone who graduates as a chemical engineer is not limited to doing the kind of things that I did in my career early on as a chemical engineer, they can literally do anything they want. They could do robotics, they could do AI, they could do sustainability, they can do anything under the sun. And so that's why I think that awareness of what's happening in the world is so important.
Yeah, great advice. I have read some of your articles about, being a mom and handling work on the side, and, you have to balance both. So what is your experience with that? I know you speak candidly about it and you wrote articles. So I want to know more about how you manage it.
Yeah. I don't think I appreciated what being a mom and having a full-grown career means until I became one. Right. And so for me, that's why it was so important to talk about it and the reality of it, not just everything is awesome, but the stuff that's not awesome. Right. And so, but in any case, I think for me, I've spoken about it on other platforms too, the way that we are a dual career family with 2 kids, right? We have a 1 and a 4-year-old, and we make it work through extreme organization. We are immigrants, right? We don't have a huge support structure of family being with us and helping us, and aunts and uncles we can call. So any small thing that happens in our life and our kids and anything else is on us. And so everything in our life is planned to the T. And so it comes down to standardizing everything and simplifying everything, right? Anything that can be standardized, like chores in the house, right? Meal prep, anything that you can think of is standardized. Anything that can be given off to someone else to do, whether it's cleaning or if you need to get the takeout sometimes because there is no time to cook, that's okay. I have no shame about these things, right? Kids need a cake for school. It's going to get picked up from a bakery. There's no way I'm making it at home. But those are examples of the kind of guilt-free things that we have to do as parents in order to keep our sanity and keep it going.
Yeah, I know you use some scientific principles and, like standardizing and optimizing and, still.
What else?
Yeah.
STEM.
Yeah, STEM. It's
right?
STEM. It's STEM at home. That's amazing. Okay. Yeah. So now we're going to speak about gender imparity or gap. Earlier you mentioned, there are less number of women in STEM field, and this is in 2021. Still, we are talking about this. So, what type of gender imparity issues are there, and what are the challenges? How can we make it better for the next generation to come?
Yeah. So there's 2 aspects to that, right? There is the statistics that exist, and you can see in STEM there's disparity depending on which particular field of STEM you are talking about. Women are anywhere between 20 and 50% of the population, right? But you'll be hard pressed to find one where there could be more. So there is the statistics, which of course are a red flag, and they tell us something is wrong, right? But what are we doing about it on a policy level? There's all these conversations that you'll hear about, which sometimes I feel, what does that truly mean to me, going into work and doing my job, right? And so what can we do more on a day-to-day and a human level between people like us, right, and the people we meet at work is, to me, the number one thing I can do is have candid conversations about everything. Right. And so that's what I truly believe in terms of, if I had to say, here is one tangible thing each and every one of us can do, it's that, right? Talking about your journey as someone in STEM, right? What that was like, some of the difficult moments that you had, not just about the successes that you had, right? Even in large organizations, when you see women who made it to the top and you ask about their stories, they talk about the wonderful things that happened in their career. But what good is that? How is that helping anyone? Right? So we need to be more candid about the things that did not go well, or the moments where you were overwhelmed. How did you get the support that you needed in those moments? So being candid about those conversations, I think, can go a long way on a day-to-day level. Beyond that, I think, cultivating, groups for mentoring, peer mentoring, or with senior leadership, and, the policies and the systems like that exist in various places. Of course, they'll all pave the way, hopefully, for a future where my daughter won't be having these conversations, right? So I do think about the future where she would think about, what career options would I choose? Oh my gosh, there are no women in this field. Should I do this? I truly hope that she never has a world where she has to go through those conversations.
Yeah, I hope that too. It'll be scary to think 10 years, 20 years from now, it'll be the same. I think it's slowly, we are getting there. There are a lot of good things that are happening around us. So that's great.
We are. And so we have to be positive about the fact that things are changing. Of course they are, right? And so we also have to be practical about the things that are not changing and what we can do about it, and make the noise that we need to make about those. So I recently had a conversation with an early career person at a company that I used to work with previously, and she said, I was in a room and I was the only woman in the room, and it was just a difficult conversation. So this is not something new, right, Jaya? We've heard about these situations where you're the only woman in the room, you're the only person of color in a room. In my position, having worked for 8 years, it doesn't bug me. I know how to turn that into an opportunity and make that my superpower, that I was the only one in any situation. It doesn't bother me at all. But that doesn't mean it's okay, right? And so when someone who's early on, in maybe early 20s, experiences something like that, that's the reason at the end of the day, women leave STEM. Those are some of the reasons, right? It can really bog you down when you just came from university and you're now all alone and lonely, right? And so that's why these conversations matter. That's why the work you're doing, Jaya, is so important, right? Even if one person watches this and says, wow, what can I do to make a change, right? You've now made an impact. And so for so many reasons, I love the work that you do. This is one of them.
Thank you. Yeah, it's about spreading awareness. And now at least they know that, there is somebody that they can, look for, like a role model. Like go to your website or, go to your page and look at your, the kind of career progression that you had. And that'll be a great inspiration for people. And that's why I do this. So thank you so much. And we were talking about how less number of women come into STEM. So what do you think about getting more girls interested in this field?
Yeah, there is, again, the standard things that you hear in the media and that do exist, right, about programs that organizations like Society of Women Engineers has, where they fund grants for people to build programs and go to middle schools and high schools to bring that pipeline in, right? So in my opinion, I think that is an aspect that is significantly changing over the last decade, that people coming in is not the challenge. The challenge is the leaky pipeline of people leaving midway, right? Half of the women who come to STEM leave within the first 5 or 10 years, half of them, which is crazy if you think about it, right? And so going back to your question, what can we do to encourage more girls to come in? We continue to invest in the programs that we invest in now, but truly, what can people like you and me do, right? So I like to do these things where when my daughter is on a play date with her friends who are girls, I talk about what I do, right? I ask them, do you know what an engineer is? Do you know what a scientist does, right? And I may share something fun that I do that can excite them, right? I love those moments. I really grab those opportunities. And so far, nobody has complained. The day they do, I have to rethink my strategy. But I truly think these moments, these interactions matter, right? You hear about so many stories where somebody, irrespective of their gender or background, where somewhere and they saw this one person and they thought, wow, can I do that? That sounds cool. And so day to day, I do think we can do a better job at talking to our children about the work that we do. You see these memes where kids say, what does your mom or what does your dad do? They sit on a computer. That's not what we do, truly, right? Yes, we do, but that's not truly what we're doing. So talking to them about some of the cool stuff that we do, I think is a huge way to encourage more girls to come into STEM.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. We should do it more often. Yeah, so one last question. Is STEM life worth it?
Oh my gosh, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yes, of course it's worth it. Absolutely. It's hard, right? And it's rewarding. At the end of the day, to me, it's absolutely worth it. Every individual has to make their own choice on what works for them. But, what do I look for in a career? I look for fulfillment. I look for walking away at the end of the day feeling like I did something that's important in the world, right? Not just to the organization I work in. And so from those aspects, of course, it's rewarding. And the money is not too bad. So yes.
It's a complete package, right?
Yes.
And I think the challenge part is the fun part. And, you've accomplished something that's challenging, you feel more rewarded. So that's how our human brains work.
That's so true.
I think it's amazing.
That's so true.
Thank you so much for doing this, Priya. It was a very interesting conversation. I'm pretty sure you're going to inspire thousands or probably millions of people.
Oh. I just hope to one, right? One person watches this and comes into STEM. I'm happy. That's golden. That's all I need.
Oh, that definitely would be I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please like, share, and comment on this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.